Hello students, so today we are going to learn a new topic, that is useful and harmful microbes. Now in the first animation slide you can see various microorganisms which some you might have come across, some are unusual. Like you can see over here towards the right top, which I am highlighting, an unusual species. This is called as a water bag. Even though in this image they look big, but they are actually very minute or microorganism which is not visible to our eye. But you can see there is no ice in it, something different than the other organisms, right? Then in the center we can see E. coli species. Then third, virus. This virus is smaller than a bacteria which can even infect bacteria. That's why it's called as a bacteriophage virus. Fungi, which is useful and harmful. The useful one, that is yeast and mushrooms. In the center, that is protists. When you say protists, the best example being amoeba, paramecium and euglena. And here lastly, that is bacteria, which are useful and harmful. So throughout the chapter you will come across various images, animations and something interesting to learn about to increase your knowledge. Also in the last slide you can see rangoli made by bacteria. How it is we can observe towards the last slide. Now moving further, I put various images of microorganism, right from small or very minute, different shapes and sizes which can cause disease, which some are useful. So you can see various images of bacteria, virus, protists, etc. So this again for understanding that microbes can be of varying shapes and size and they are not visible to our naked eye. Now moving to the next slide, again I added another slide of good and bad bacterial flora which you are going to learn in detail in this chapter. So for your knowledge, if you see here, the microorganisms can be useful and harmful which you are going to learn. So the useful ones are good bacteria which helps in digestion process, in producing enzymes, whereas a bad one can cause stomach upset, can cause food poisoning, etc. The useful or helpful microorganism which can help in production of various food like yeast and bacteria in the production of bread, cheese, wine or curd or other food products or industrial use. Harmful ones, again you can see various ones which can cause various disease and disorders. So again this entire chart helps you understand about the useful and harmful microorganism. Moving further, now what are we going to learn in this chapter? The useful microorganism like Lactobacilli, the uses of Lactobacilli, Rhizobium, that is symbiotic bacteria, the role and importance of rhizobium, yeast, antibiotics like penicillin, harmful microorganisms like fungi, Clostridium and few other harmful microorganisms. So what are microorganisms? Or what are microbes? Microbes are living organisms so tiny you can't see them without a microscope. So they are so small we need a microscope to see them. They are different shapes and size. They are found everywhere. Some microbes are useful, that is good for us as we saw in the previous slide and as we are going to learn, and some microbes can cause illness. Now going to the detailed part of the chapter, starting with the useful microorganism, that is Lactobacilli. The Lactobacilli convert lactose, the sugar in the milk, into lactic acid. Now this process of conversion is called as what? Fermentation. If I give a simple example, even at home we use fermentation process in the making of idlis and dosas, doklas, etc. Right? Then as a result, the pH of milk decreases, causing coagulation of milk proteins. Now when you say coagulation, means it's formed a cluster. Okay. Thus, milk proteins are separated from other constituents of milk. This happens when milk changes into yogurt, that is curd. Yogurt has a specific sour taste due to lactic acid. The low pH destroys harmful microbes present in the milk. Now here if you see, I put an animation image of Lactobacilli. how it is growing. Also various species in Lactobacillus, and just an image of Lactobacilli, how they look under microscope. Now moving further, some again information which is given in the text about probiotics. What is meant by probiotic yogurt and other foodstuffs that are popular nowadays? As you know, now in the market or in the malls, we can see various products of probiotic yogurt or probiotics. Useful microbes like lactobacilli are added to these eatables. Such eatables are healthy because they kill the harmful bacteria like Clostridium in the alimentary canal and help to improve our immune system. So if you see here, again I given few examples of probiotics. So when you say probiotics like Lactobacillus, Lactococcus, Propionibacterium, Streptococcus, Thermophilus, then Bifidobacterium, Bulgaricus, and the few examples of probiotics, like they reach our intestine, all these microorganisms, and they are alive, they kill the harmful ones, they help in digestion, they improve our bowel movement. What is bowel movement? That our stomach movement, internal, external, you can move it quickly. While as you do yogas, you always have your breathing exercise. When you're breathing, your stomach movement is very much important, or the bowel movement. They produce beneficial effect on the health, that is they improve the health, prevent harmful bacteria from multiplying in the intestine. That is, in case of harmful bacteria, if it enters our body through food or water, so these probiotic can keep a control, check them, and even kill them. Then for example, the best being Yakult, which is more common nowadays, right? Now coming to the uses of lactobacilli, various milk products like yogurt, buttermilk, ghee, cheese, Srikhand, etc. can be obtained by fermentation of milk. So by fermentation of milk, many products can be obtained. Lactobacilli fermentation is useful for large-scale production of cider, cocoa, pickles or vegetables, etc. Lactobacilli and some other useful microbes taken together are used to treat abdominal discomfort. So if there is problem with digestion, so this lactobacilli helps in improving the abdominal discomfort, that is digestion problem. Leavened food offered of domestic cattle like cows and buffaloes in fodder fermented with help of lactobacilli. The lactobacilli fermentation process is used to make wine and some types of bread. As we learned in the beginning slide, yogurt, bread, cheese, pickles, wine, beer, all this can be produced with the help of lactobacilli. So best and a very simple example being yogurt produced by Lactobacillus acidophilus. Again the specific one which are used for production of curd. Moving further, Rhizobium, the symbiotic bacteria. So the image or the figure 8.2 from the text, root nodules of soybean plant. So you can see here Rhizobium, the inner part of the root section where you can see infected root hair, infected by bacteria, the cell division, growth of root nodules, bacteroid conducting tissue of nodule, the bacteroid present over here, and you can see few images of the root. Here I put an animation image, so you can see the root nodules where it is exactly present or attached to the root, that is the rhizobium attached onto the root nodule, which help in the symbiosis. Now moving further, role and importance of rhizobium. Rhizobia living in root nodule supply nitrates, nitrites and amino acids to that plant, and in exchange get energy in the form of carbohydrates from it. Such a mutual beneficial relationship is called symbiosis. What does that mean? In simple words, like all of you help your friends in maybe in materials or with studies, with books, right? Same way here, rhizobia living in the root nodules gets accommodation. In turn, it provides nitrate, nitrites and amino acids converted from the atmospheric nitrogen to the plants. So the rhizobia produce nitrogenous compounds from the atmospheric nitrogen. However, for this process of nitrogen fixation, they need leguminous plants like beans, sweet peas, soybean, etc. as hosts. Beans and pulses are rich in proteins due to the nitrogenous compounds made available by rhizobia. Now, one more important thing is this nitrogen fixation cannot take place in all the plants, only in leguminous plant like beans, sweet pea and soybean. After harvesting a leguminous crop, the leftover roots and other plant parts are deliberately dumped in farm soil to maintain its bacterial population. That means what? After the harvesting the crop, the remaining part of the roots are again put into the soil so that bacterial population can be increased, which are already present in the leftover roots. The use of rhizobium has helped to reduce the use of chemical fertilizer and thereby their adverse effects. Now, more amount of chemical fertilizer used, but by using this rhizobium, the use of chemical fertilizers can be decreased. Also, even the cost is also reduced, because in buying this chemical fertilizer, a lot of money is also input. So when that is reduced, and most importantly, the chemical fertilizer dependency is reduced. It also helps to reduce expenses on fertilizers and thus works to benefit of the farmer. So it is very useful to the farmers. Now, coming to the next one, yeast. In yeast, reproduction takes place asexually, known as budding. Now, in this image, you can see in budding in yeast how the yeast, which is spherical or oval structures, slowly and steadily they are dividing by budding process, formation of small buds. So you can see in this figure 8.3 yeast, from the text, cytoplasm, nucleus, cell wall is present and the bud is forming. Okay, and here you can see the animation part, how these buds grow and get separated. You can see another animation image, much more clearer and highlighted, and you can see here as well. Now, moving further, yeast is a heterotrophic fungal microbe that grows on carbon compounds. Yeast is unicellular fungus with 1500 different species in existence. How many? 1500 species of yeast are present. And the yeast cell is a eukaryotic type of cell. Yeast grows and multiplies very quickly due to the carbon compounds in the sugar solution. Because of the sugary medium, the yeast grows faster. In the process of obtaining nutrition, yeast cells convert the carbohydrate in that solution into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Now, this process is called as fermentation. Clear? Moving further, again little bit of information. Do you know? Often alcohol is produced along with sugar in sugar factories. Molasses is produced from sugar cane juice. It is rich in carbohydrate. Molasses is fermented with the help of yeast called Saccharomyces. In this process, ethanol, that is C2H5OH, or in simple words, alcohol is produced as a primary product and ester and other alcohols as secondary products. Now, as we know, sugarcane juice, all of you might be liking it, right? Now, with the sugarcane, the factories, they produce molasses from this sugarcane juice, and along with the help of Saccharomyces, that is yeast. Spirit and other alcohols can be obtained from ethanol. Ethanol is also a smokeless and high quality fuel. Besides molasses, maize, barley and other grains are also used for industrial production of ethanol. Glucose and fructose, the sugar present in grape juice, are also fermented with the help of yeast to produce the alcohol which is used for making wines. So here if you see shown an image of molasses. Now if you see the molasses, it looks like what? Chocolate syrup, right? So these molasses are actually used as artificial sweetening wherever required. And above I added a image of Saccharomyces, the yeast, how it multiplies quickly. Now little bit more information about bioremediation. A yeast Yarovia lipolytica is used to absorb toxins released during production of palm oil and heavy metals and minerals released in some other industrial process. Now, if you see, I put the image of this particular microorganism. There are two strains of different size we can see, Yarovia lipolytica. Now, this microorganism is useful. Why? They absorb all the heavy metals which are produced during the some industrial process. Also, Saccharomyces cerevisiae is used for absorption of pollutant arsenic. So even this yeast is useful to absorb pollutant like arsenic. Oil spills in oceans are cleaned with the help of Alkinovorax bacteria. So here I have put the image of Alkinovorax borkumensis, which are rod shaped, as you can see the image, and alkanes are the principal carbon and energy sources by the use of broad spectrum of oil degrading enzymes it possesses. The microbes play a major role in keeping our oceans in pristine condition, as well as inhabitants of ocean and inhabitants of coastal region in good health. What does that mean? Now, as you know, in oceans, seas, lot of vessels or ships go. When they go, the petrol products, oils, there's a lot of oil spills. Now, if they are present in the oceans and sea, what will happen? It will kill all the aquatic life, that is fishes, plants, everything in the ocean. So in order to prevent that, these oil feeding microorganisms are utilized, which feed upon the all the spilled oil or the other waste, so which helps to keep the ocean in good condition. Otherwise, what will happen? You might have come across earlier, because of oil spill, many aquatic species, and not only aquatic, even the aquatic birds which feed on these fishes also dying because of the infected species of the aquatic life. Okay, so you can see how useful the microorganisms are. Now coming to further antibiotics. Carbon compounds obtained from some bacteria and fungi for destroying or preventing the growth of harmful microorganisms are called antibiotics. Now this antibiotics we are taking very commonly, because whenever there is a illness, fever or some infection, we usually go to doctor and doctor prescribes the medicine, which is nothing but the antibiotics. Antibiotics, a discovery of the 20th century, have brought about a revolution in the field of medicine. Even a disease like tuberculosis has been almost completely eradicated from some countries. So this discovery of antibiotics has been a boon for all the humans, because earlier, because of infection, there's a lot of death or a lot of disease caused. Now because of antibiotics, it can eradicate most of the diseases. Antibiotics mainly act against bacteria. Some antibiotics can even destroy protozoa. Some antibiotics are useful against a wide variety of bacteria. They are called broad spectrum antibiotics. The examples are ampicillin, amphoxicillin, tetracycline, etc. Now what does this broad spectrum antibiotics means? In simple words, when there is an infection and it's not known that is which bacteria is caused, so we can use this broad spectrum antibiotics, which can be effective in all types of species. When the pathogen cannot be identified, even though the symptoms of disease are visible, so broad spectrum antibiotics are used. Whenever a pathogen microorganism is definitely known, then narrow spectrum antibiotics are used. Example, penicillin, gentamicin, erythromycin. What does that mean? When we know what is the infection and the cause of infection, then we can give the particular antibiotic for particular species or the infection, so it can be cured. So when we know the type of infection and we are using the particular type of medicine, that is narrow spectrum antibiotics. Now in this slide you can see further few images of antibiotics, that is classification of antibiotics based on mode of action, that is bacteriostatic and bactericidal. The term cidal means to kill the bacteria. based on the spectrum of action, as we just learned, broad spectrum and narrow spectrum. And antibiotics can be in various forms, tablets, again of various shapes and sizes, in the form of injections. Here, caution. What is the caution? Antibiotics should be taken only when prescribed by a doctor, because if you take without the prescription, there can be side effects of it. Don't purchase any antibiotic from medical store without a prescription from the doctor. Don't consume antibiotics on your own to treat common disease like a throat infection, common cold or influenza. So if there is any illness, any infection, better to consult a doctor and take the prescription according to the infection. Even if you feel well before completing of the prescribed course of antibiotic, you must continue and complete it. That is, whenever doctor prescribes a medicine for so number of period of time, so that period of time should be continued rather than stopping in between, because the possibility of reoccurring is always there. Don't suggest to others the antibiotics which were useful to you. That is, the medicines for each and every person will be depending on their condition. So one person's prescription cannot be used by the other. Now, institutes at work. National Institute of Virology, established in 1952 in Pune, undertakes research related to disease like measles, jaundice, fever and disease of the lungs with support from the World Health Organization. So here the Institute of Virology in Pune, where various research work is carried out. The symbol of the Institute of Virology. Now moving further, penicillin. Penicillin is a group of antibiotics obtained from a fungus, Penicillium, and is used for controlling the infections caused by bacteria like Staphylococcus, Clostridia, Streptococci. So penicillin, again taken from fungus, which which helps to control infection caused by various bacteria, as mentioned, Staphylococcus, Clostridia, Streptococci. Medicines containing penicillin are useful to treat bacterial infection of the ear, nose, throat and skin, as well as disease like pneumonia and scarlet fever. So various use of penicillin. Now, scientists. Sir Alexander Fleming, the discovery of penicillin. So to learn little bit about the introduction to scientists. Alexander Fleming, a professor of microbiology at St. Mary's Hospital, had cultured various varieties of bacteria and fungi in petri dish in his laboratory. On 3rd September 1928, while observing Staphylococci culture, he made an interesting observation in one of the petri dish. In that petri dish, fungal colonies had grown, but the area around those colonies were clean and clear. That is, bacteria had actually been destroyed. After further studies, he confirmed that the fungus growing there was penicillin and its secretion had destroyed the bacterial colonies. So always remember, students, the discovery, invention up to now which is done, it's most often accidentally, while doing one work accidentally discover another work. So as here it had happened. Thus, first antibiotic penicillin had been discovered accidentally and thus formed the basis for attempts to find cures for incurable disease. Shouldn't we always be grateful to Alexander Fleming for discovering the life-saving antibiotic? Yes, because that was the first discovery which helped to cure many such disease and disorders caused by the various bacteria. Now students, little bit more interesting fact which is given in the text. Wonderful to know. Ants grow fungi in their termitarium, that is ant hill, and obtain food from it. Some species of wasps and other insects lay their eggs in the fungal bodies and growing on trees, thus ensuring a food supply to the larva. So if you see ants which grow fungi in their ant hill, or certain insects laying eggs in the fungal body. So the eggs, when they hatch out, these young ones or the larva can feed on it. So if you see here, ant making or growing fungi in the ant hill, which you can see over here. And once it's complete, when the young ones comes out, you can see the young ones feeding on the fungi species, right? And here wasp, which again growing or laying eggs in the fungal bodies. And one more interesting aspect here, insect or we can say beetle, their antenna, we can see here the forked fungal beetle, the name according to the image of the species. If you see here yellow color structures, they are nothing but fungal growth. Now when the female lays eggs, it is laid at this region where the eggs, when they hatch out, can utilize the fungal as a food. So something interesting, right? Now coming to further part, harmful microorganisms. So from useful to harmful. Fungi. Microscopic spores of fungi are present in air. So always the spores of fungus are present in air, but if our immune system is stronger, we can overcome it. If there is sufficient moisture, spores germinate on cotton fiber or fabric, gunny bags, leather, wood items. Now this you can see during rainy season. If there is little bit of moisture, all these cotton fabric or gunny bags or leather items, they quickly catch fungal infection. The fungal hyphae, that is fibers of fungus, penetrate deep into the material to obtain nutrition and to reproduce quickly. This causes the materials to wear and become weak. As a result, gunny bags, leather items like shoes, purses, belts, etc., on which fungi have grown do not last long. Wooden items also get spoiled because the fungus uses the protein or the important materials present in them, so they penetrate deep into it and absorb their nutrition. Sometimes you may notice a black powder or white disc floating on the pickle or murabba when a jar is opened after a long time. Various species of fungi grow on food items like pickles, murabba, jam, sauce, chutney, etc. Or if I give a very simple example, bread. Now most of us eat bread, but once you open the pack of bread, keep it for certain period of time unused, immediately after the expiry date, after some time, a white layer is formed on that. What is that? Nothing but the fungal growth. They use the nutrients in these food items for growth and reproduction. During this activity, the fungi, they release mycotoxin, certain poisonous chemicals into the food, and thus the food becomes poisonous. That's why all these infected food items like the bread or other items like pickle, murabba, we have to discard it or throw, because once it is infected by the fungal, then the mycotoxins are released, and if you consume that, then it may cause stomach ache or food poisoning. Hence, the food on which fungi have grown cannot be eaten. Now, next harmful one is Clostridium. Sometimes cases of food poisoning occur during community fests. Or how does the food become poisonous all of a sudden? When you say community feast, it may be a marriage or some other function. The bacteria which spoil cooked food are Clostridium. So this food poisoning is moreover caused by the bacteria called as Clostridium. Out of about 100 different species of this bacterium, some are free living in the soil, whereas some live in the alimentary canal of humans and other animals. So there are almost 100 species which are present in the soil, in the alimentary canal of humans and animals. These bacteria are rod shaped and produce bottle shaped endospores in adverse condition. Now if you just see the images which I put from the text, 8.4 Clostridium species, you can see rod shaped structure and also small bottle shaped endospores which are being released. One special characteristic of these bacteria is that they cannot withstand the normal oxygen level of the air because they grow in anaerobic condition. What does that mean? Anaerobic means in the absence of oxygen. So these Clostridium, they quickly multiply or grow in less oxygen or without oxygen. So you can see various species of Clostridium, Clostridium tetani, Clostridium perfringens, Clostridium botulinum, Clostridium difficile. Now, other than this, other harmful microorganism, other kinds of microorganisms like bacteria, virus, protozoa and fungi are also responsible for different disease that affects humans. Viruses, which are smaller than bacteria and can grow, reproduce only in living cells. So there are various different microorganisms which are harmful as well, like bacteria. Some of them we already seen, viruses which can cause health effect, which is there in the present pandemic, protozoa and fungi as well, as we have seen in the earlier slide. So again, just put few images of bacterial species which you can see here, viruses, two different strains of virus, then fungi species. If you see this fungi, say called as puffball mushroom. If you see this ball keep on bursting and releasing this spore, it looks like a smoke, but there are hundreds of small spores in it, and these are present in the surrounding. So if our system is weak, they can enter through our breathing process and can affect our immune system. And here protozoa, which can also cause disease. Now, again, an introduction to scientists. It was believed that meat gets spoiled due to some bacteria of the bacillus type, but the exact type of bacillus was not known. Van Ermenjem proved that the anaerobic bacterium Clostridium botulinum is responsible for food poisoning. So Clostridium species is responsible for food poisoning, which was later proved by Van Ermenjem. So I put the image of the scientist in 1895. Emily Van Ermenjem first isolated the bacterium Clostridium botulinum. Further, Ida Bengtson obtained higher education in biochemistry at Chicago University. She conducted important research on the toxin responsible for gas gangrene and the antitoxin using for treating it. While she was doing research on dreaded disease called typhus, she herself contracted the infection, but she overcame it and continued her research work. For this work, she had honored with the Typhus Medal in 1947. So you can see two scientists, one is Emily Van Ermenjem and other is Ida Bengtson. Moving further, the spread and prevention of disease. A chart given in the text showing various diseases, their pathogen, mode of infection and preventive measures. Students, always remember the name of the disease and the pathogen by which it is caused, whether it is a virus, bacteria, protozoa or fungi, and then the mode and preventive measure. Now in case of AIDS, pathogen is the virus, the mode of infection through blood and semen of infected person and milk of mother suffering from AIDS. What is the preventive measure? Safe sexual contact, avoid reuse of needles and injection. Next, hepatitis, again caused by a virus, contaminated with water and food. Clean and filtered water, proper storage of food is the right preventive measure. Next, influenza virus, that is pathogen. Contact with infected person, personal hygiene and avoiding contact with infected person. Measles and chickenpox, again caused by virus, contact with infected person, vaccination, uncontaminated water, clean food. Bird flu or swine flu, both caused by virus. Contact with infected birds and animals, personal hygiene, proper cooked meat. Dengue by virus, that is mosquito bite, cleanliness of the surrounding, preventing stagnation of water, mosquito control. Pneumonia caused by bacteria, droplets spread in air by infected person. Vaccination, avoiding contact with infected person. Leprosy caused by bacteria, long-term contact with infected person, avoiding contact with infected person and their belonging. Cholera, again caused by bacteria, contaminated food and water, clean food and water. Malaria, protozoa, mosquito bite, unclean surrounding, cleanliness of the surrounding, preventing stagnation of water, control mosquito. And lastly, dandruff, ringworm, scabies, all caused because of fungus. Contact with infected person of or his her belonging like clothes. Personal hygiene, avoiding contact with the infected person. So these are some of the diseases and the pathogens, mode of infection and preventive measures. Now, again something additional information given in the text. Black stone flower or called as kalpasi or dagad phul, or we can say it is used as spices in India, so lesser known spices. Now why it is called as black stone flower or dagad phul? The term dagad in Marathi means stone, or pattar kaful, again stone, or black stone flower, because you can see this particular plant growing on stone or appearance like a flower, right? But it is actually a lichen or a lichen that is symbiosis between a algae and a fungi. So lichen or lichen, known benefits of blackstone flower or dagad or pattar phool. Kalpasi. Kalpasi or blackstone flower is a species of lichen family and it is organically grown on stems of trees or on stones. So hence, as it grows on stones, it is called as dagad phool. Kalpasi is used in Indian kitchen as a spice and is also used by all the spice companies as an ingredient. Why? What are the benefits? Kalpasi improves digestion and good pain reliever and heals wound. See how useful it is. Reduce risk of heart related problems, helps in treating skin problems and reduce inflammation, have antibacterial and antifungal property, prevent urinary tract infection and formation of kidney stone, and maintains body temperature. Then good for hair growth and heals cough and asthma. So when it is good for growth of hair, right? So see how many important uses are or benefits are there of the blackstone flower. Few more in things added for your knowledge. That is, they have got different names. Botanical name is what? Permotrima perlatum. So common name, as you know, blackstone flower. Hindi name pattar ka phool or dagad phool. Uh, Malayalam name Badalpuve, Selayam, Kalpuve, Telugu name Rati Puvule, Kallupachi, Kannada, Kalahu, Kaluhuva. So different names in different Indian languages to name a few. And again an image from the text showing the lichen or lichen. Lastly, thank you. Now if you see, as I told in the first slide, these are rangoli made by bacteria by using proper culture in the tissue culture medium in the lab and using proper stain. So you can see, from if you use it properly, the bacteria can be used in a rangoli. Stay healthy, be safe, wash your hands. The heart, the flower or the plant drawn with the help of the bacteria, the flower image, the jellyfish image, or the trees. Here again the tree image, smiley with the coloration, thank you, finally with the bacterial rangoli pattern. Okay, so I hope this is clear and very interesting with lot of additional information in it. So thank you all of you. Thank you students. So learn and revise.